Okay, started, yeah? It started. Right, so we're from Bond Adams Solicitors. My name is Nasir Patel, and I'm
My
here
name
with.
is Mispa, and we both work in the property team at Bond Adams. Um, we're just going to be talking about our journey here and what we've done to start working at Bond Adams in the property team. So that's it.
Yeah, so before we came here, we were doing our LPC,
Mm-hmm.
and we started off with that after graduating from our undergrad,
Yeah.
and then we did property as a core in LPC, so we had a good understanding of the area of property.
Yeah, we got taught about the basics, and there's a lot of things that now we find quite familiar
Mm.
when actually practically applying that to the files that we currently work with. Um, we went through quite a few topics in the LPC, which has obviously now changed to the SQE. I'm not too sure if the LPC, the traditional route, is still ongoing at the moment, but I do understand that the SQE has now come about in a lot of universities. But yeah, we got taught quite a few topics, property being one of them. We dealt with forms, we dealt with basic knowledge of transactions and purchases, leases, etc. And yeah.
And we went through contracts, etc. So we kind of had an idea when we need to, why it's important to exchange on contracts, and why that's very important in our kind of area, because that means both parties are now binded, and they will need to complete, and there are special conditions which are set out, and the buyers and the sellers has to abide by that. So areas such as property and learning about contracts, etc., and the different process of conveyancing was kind of it was kind of beneficial for us to actually do the LPC and then start.
Yeah, because in the LPC, they talk you through the process of each transaction, and it kind of details the importance of each point. Obviously, as you mentioned, the completion part of it, that's kind of the most crucial part. But yeah, I think putting that into practical aspects, working at Bond Adams in property, it kind of allows us to apply our knowledge that we had beforehand into practical aspects, and yeah, now we kind of use it on a day-to-day basis. So it's not that we learned something in the LPC that's now not applicable.
Mm.
We everything we learn, I think we kind of use it on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I feel like obviously practicing it out of can be a bit different because we went through the stages in more depth. For example, raising inquiries
Yeah.
and report writing,
Mm-hmm.
which is very different to actually studying it, because
I think when you study it, you go through the basics,
yeah,
the basic elements you understand, but putting that into practical aspects, it makes a huge difference. Which obviously, whilst you're currently working every day with different transactions, and one thing is that you learn about the basic transactions, but there's a lot more complicated transactions. For example, like leaseholds, auction matters, and like commercial properties, etc. They can get complicated as you do deal with them. But yeah, when you're working in a law firm, it kind of helps because you can expand your knowledge with all the different sort of properties and dealings that you work with.
yeah. So we can kind of run through the process of, let's say, if we're instructing a buyer and we're their solicitor, we we can go through the different stages. For example, we start off by sending out a client care letter, and that's very important. Um,
Yeah, because at that point, I think that's between us and the client, where the client agrees to instruct us to act on their behalf. That's why we kind of urge our clients to try to have a read through our documents and send it across. So that's when we usually proceed with actually working on the file itself.
Yep, and at the same time we would verify their ID as well, and we'll need their address. We'll also need proof of funds as well, just to see if everything is legal. And yeah, then we'll proceed onwards. We'll receive a draft contract back from the other side,
Mm-hmm.
and then with that contract, we can then, after receiving that kind of information, we can start searches on the property.
Yeah. So the searches usually it differs. With some cases, some searches do come back pretty quickly, but we usually have some searches that can take a little while to come. So during that time, we do try to get things done in the background, but we usually raise inquiries once the searches have come back. So searches essentially is just information that we acquire on the property, just certain information that may not be known to the actual buyer or seller. And these searches kind of explain everything about the property itself. And at the same time, I think when there's a mortgage or something, that's when we usually deal with it. So whilst we're waiting for the searches, we deal with a mortgage,
Yep.
mortgage redemption, etc. And get that process.
Yep.
in place.
So after we do, after our searches do come back, that's when we'll start raising inquiries, and inquiries can take some time to raise, as we need to ensure that we are raising every little thing across to the other side, to protect our client as well, as he would be or she would be unaware of many crucial points of the property. And then once they respond, um, we have more knowledge on the property, and then we can, well, once all inquiries are satisfied, we can kind of set a exchange and completion date with the other side, and then from the date we can, if there's a mortgage, we can submit the certificate of title, get that all sorted out for the date that we're completing on, and report on our client as well. So we'll need to go through all the searches, all the title, the documents, everything, and provide the client with a full-on report, so they have all the information they need, and if they want to raise anything about the property, they can do so before we exchange.
Yeah, so that was kind of the basics of a normal transaction, the way it'd work. As I mentioned, when it comes to leasehold properties or commercial properties, it can get a little more confusing, and it can be a bit more complicated, I'd say. And in there, it can take a little longer because there's a lot more things that we need to inquire about and have a look into in depth. So yeah, I think I'd say, wouldn't you agree? Like with commercial properties, they are quite complicated compared to the standard residentials.
Yes, because in, let's say, a leasehold, there would be LP1, a management pack, which we would then need to raise inquiries on that as well, which can take additional time, and it can be um, quite quite long as well in terms of the actual the process of that, as we'll need to get in touch with the management agency as well. And yeah, I feel like that's the kind of the major difference between a leasehold and a freehold, when we are doing more of the LPE1 management work and raising inquiries on that.
Yeah, but I'd say that's, as I said, like when you're studying for in property, um, you go through the basics, but then actually applying it, like you understand that there's a lot more complicated matters, but it's always like a learning curve. Like you learn more as you work with more files, and in a way, I think compared to where we started
Yeah.
with practically just about like half the knowledge,
Mm.
we've kind of grown and expanded our knowledge as time has gone by, and there's a lot of areas that we haven't covered, but I think as time goes on and the more files we deal with, we'll be able to cover more aspects of properties. And it's just the fact that I think even working in a law firm, you have a lot of people that have a lot more experience and knowledge, so it's very easy to kind of understand certain aspects and kind of jog your memory as well at the same time. Um, but yeah, overall, I'd say LPC, I think going back to talking about studying the LPC itself, I think that was really good because, yeah, it was just a smooth process. Learned quite a few things that we can now apply, so it wasn't that knowledge kind of went elsewhere. It was good, and I think it was a really good route. The traditional route was good. As I said, SQE is now it's now come about. It's the new method of learning. But I think with the SQE, there's a lot of people that have started applying for it, and I think it works a little differently to the LPC. LPC was just your standard extra year.
And it was very practical as well.
Yeah, very practical. And in there, you kind of covered a lot of other topics as well. I think that's the same for SQE as well.
Yeah.
I understand that there's the SQE 1 and then there's the SQE 2. And there's a lot of things that you cover, for example, like business law, that's something that we covered. And yeah, as I said, property, that's something that you cover. And wills and stuff like that. So
yeah, I feel like another main positive of doing a master's in law is that you go to different areas of law, and from that you kind of have an idea of what you actually enjoy doing. And for example, let's say if an individual enjoys doing property, or let's say commercial litigation, in the actual master's course, they can then, after studying it, they'd be like, oh, you know what, I'm actually better and actually enjoy this more. And that makes a big difference when you're actually practicing it, because I feel like it's important to actually enjoy what you're doing. I feel like I did enjoy doing property, and I was thinking of doing property, practicing it in the future, because of the whole aspect. It was more to it, and in terms of the whole learning curve, it was actually something that I kind of wanted to practice as well. I also wanted to do other areas, for example, litigation, and I'm currently have a few matters on litigation as well. And yeah, each time we have a new file, we kind of learn more, as every file is different. And yeah, for me, it's been a year for me now since I've been working at Bond Adams, and we're still learning every single day. There's something new we pick up on, and we have a good team around us as well, where if we are unclear on what to do or how to do it, we always get the help that we need.
yeah, and I think one thing about our firm is the fact that we can always go to the other teams and actually ask for help. Like, I understand that with our team, we come to you if with your team, and basically if there's certain matters that we don't understand, it's basically vice versa. So we kind of all work together in a way. And for me personally, I'd say my experience with the LPC in property specifically, it was the fact that when I was doing property in whilst learning it, because I didn't practically apply it, it was a little bit different. But I think I started enjoying it more whilst I was working and practically doing everything and obviously learning at the same time. So I wouldn't say it's a monotone thing where it's kind of steady in its way. Every file is different and every matter is different. It all differs, and in a way you're always learning continuously. Every single day you're kind of coming across something new. And yeah, it's always interesting. I think every day coming and working in property, it's always good. And yeah, we always get the help that we need. And yeah, property is just a great aspect to work in.
When you were studying the LPC, was there anything else, any other area of law which you were interested in?
I think litigation actually. So civil litigation, that's something that was quite interesting to me. And yeah, we kind of covered in the LPC, we covered criminal litigation as well. We did civil litigation, as I mentioned. We did business law, etc. So there's quite a few things that you cover in LPC. But for me, I think my top favourites were literally civil litigation and property law. So those were the good parts for me. But as I said, whilst learning it, it was kind of different to applying it. Not to say that it wasn't relevant. Of course, it was relevant. Like everything that we learn in LPC, we kind of use
Yeah.
on a daily basis. But yeah, I think applying it just makes it more interesting, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of actually comparing the undergrad to the postgrad,
Yeah,
I'd say there is a large difference
there's a
in that.
difference. Yeah.
And I feel like postgrad is very practical and it's very intense,
Intense. Yeah.
and I feel like it gets you ready for your to actually practice in a firm
Yeah.
after, in comparison with the undergrad, which does teach you the basics of law. It teaches you on different modules as well, such as criminal, contract, human rights, etc. But what the LPC offers you is, they obviously we have core modules in there,
Yeah.
but then we have electives as well,
Yep.
which we can kind of pick, and people pick that based on what they kind of want to practice in the future. But yeah, that's how life at university went, and the different areas that we've encountered, and how that's helped us practice right now.
Yeah, I think with undergrad, as you said, yeah, there's a big difference between undergrad and postgrad. I think undergrad is more like book based, I'd say. Although postgrad, you do have to read quite a lot, and but in a way, it's good because you get to apply that information. It's not, you're just not writing 24/7. It is intense. There's a lot more exams, but I think our experience at uni was good because we kind of all worked together in our groups, etc., and everything kind of went smoothly, and it prepared you to. I think if I, after postgrad, maybe took a bit of time and then started working, I think I'd kind of miss out a little bit. So it was a good. It wasn't that great of a jump, I'd say.
Yeah.
So doing postgrad and then straight away working in a law firm was kind of something that was needed because that information was fresh. And yeah, I'd say postgrad was pretty good. Obviously, that's just, we're talking about LPC. SQE may be different, but obviously, I think more universities are doing the SQEs now. So I think it's the SQE 1 and 2. I think it's split into 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, the traditional route, I'm not too sure if they still apply. I think we were the last year to do that.
I think maybe one more year,
Yeah.
and after that they're just completely scrapping it, and it's just going to be the SQE.
Yeah. So I'd say with the SQE, I think, yeah, what I did before LPC is I actually did quite a bit of research into the LPC course about how it's laid out throughout the year, what the exams are, and I spoke to certain tutors at uni. So I'd say even with the SQE, I'd suggest that if anybody is interested in law and doing the SQE, so doing the postgrad element of it, then by all means do as much research as you can, and yeah, just speak to somebody and try to get a bit of intel into how it works and how the experience itself is. But yeah, personally, I'd say LPC was the traditional route was good for me, because that option, I think, for SQE was available to us as well at that point. But yeah, I think I'm glad that I went with the LPC traditional route.
Yeah, I believe a couple of our friends also did. They did the SQE.
Yeah.
However, it was a different structure. I believe LPC is way more practical, and SQE, it can be done online as well.
Yeah.
So you have all the resources and the additional material you need to do that online. However, I feel like there is a difference of going in and doing more practical work than doing computer-based online work.
Yeah, I think, especially even after COVID, I think the fact that when COVID happened, we did everything online. So coming back to uni for masters and doing postgrad back in uni was good, because you had a lot more people to conversate with and get your work done, and it was just easier talking to your lecturers and getting the information you needed. I personally, we both went to De Montfort, so it's local, and it was good because we did our undergrad there as well.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's the same for all the unis across UK. But yeah, apart from that, I think just going back to the fact that doing postgrad and having a law degree, and then moving on to working in a law firm is really good, and applying all your information and everything, you don't feel like your information's kind of just been put at bay.
Yeah.
You use that information and you use that knowledge, and you're learning every single day, and it's just overall it's a great experience, I'd say.
Yeah. Um, Towards the end of the LPC, when we were learning, that kind of motivated me to um, apply to firms in Leicester as well, and kind of do work experience at the same time, or completely start. And that's when I applied to Bond Adams and started working there part time whilst doing the LPC as well. And I felt like it was pretty good, as I was learning it, and at the same time I was practicing it as well,
Yeah.
and which helped kind of go through the whole um, the whole the whole way of actually going inside inside. And I feel like doing it is practicing it is very is ve- so I feel I'm getting cut off. Practicing it is very good at the same time as doing it. You mentioned you started working after completing your LPC, correct?
Yeah, so I started after I was done with my exam. Yeah, sorry. So as I was saying, I started after my exams, and in a way, I think I would have much rather had it where I started during my exams. But I'd say even just starting after my exams, it was good because that information was present, and I didn't take much of a gap. I started pretty much straight away after I completed my masters. So I had the equal time to focus on my degree, as well as then going towards the next step, which was working full time. So I completely understand where you're coming from about working part time, applying that knowledge at the same time. I think that would have helped me quite a lot,
Yeah.
because obviously it's very different having the information there in your textbooks and doing it on a daily basis compared to actually applying it and using it in a law firm and with the transactions that you deal with. So it was good, but I'd say I think it would have been a better experience for me to kind of work part time whilst doing the LPC as well.
Yeah, I mean there can be pros and cons to that as well. Let's say a con could be that you're revising, you have all the exams, and at the same time you kind of want to focus on your exams as well.
Yeah.
I'd say that would be a con. However, yeah, I found working at the same time to be a good experience.
I
And
think it just also depends on the person
yeah,
itself. Like, I think for me, if I was working at the same time, I probably would have that divided attention towards my studies, so it might not have worked out in the best way. Although it was good to have that experience and to be able to physically apply that information. Obviously, for me, I'm more of a person where I like to take things step by step. So it worked out well for me in the end anyway. And I think for you too, I think everyone, it just differs according to who you are. So I wouldn't feel pressured to straight away, as soon as you start your masters or start your postgrad, to start looking for a job straight away. I'd say take your time, take your experience, do your work, and focus on your degree. And yeah.
yeah, definitely. It's better to do research as well, before you're currently practicing or whatever you want to practice in the LPC. Let's say you want to go into family. Um, I'm pretty sure it would be a benefit for you to practice the family module in the LPC to gain a bit of experience in that, and then after you have a good understanding of that, you can go into practicing it. Um, Talking about family, many areas of law are completely they're different to one each other. So, for
Yeah.
example, we have family, which would be very different to property.
Yeah, I think especially with Bond Adams, we have quite a few different departments.
Yeah,
So we have immigration, we
yeah,
have litigation, we deal with family law, property, dispute resolution.
yeah,
We deal with quite a few matters, so we have quite a few different teams, and the one thing is that we all, in a way, it's kind of all interlinked. So I understand that there can be matters in family law, for example, if there's a transfer of a property, then they'll pass that to us and we'll deal with it. And if, for example, we have someone who needs some information about immigration, etc., we'll pass that client on to the immigration team. So in a way, it's good because we're not just based around one area of law.
Yeah.
We cover quite a few aspects, and we have a great workload, and we have a great team in each department who kind of are always happy to help and work with matters quite quickly. That's something that we do understand, that when we start working on files, we usually try to communicate with our clients as much as we can to obviously to help them and to also help ourselves. And that's just something that Bond Adams does really well.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, obviously we deal with many aspects, many areas of law. We are a full service law firm. Apart from criminal law, we do practice in all other areas, which is obviously it's a good benefit. It shows that we deal with many different aspects. And like you said, we can interlink with between areas. For example, if we do have a property transaction after, if the individual does want a will, so we can put that towards the wills department as well. And yeah, we can pass that along in the same firm but to a different area, so they can also help out. And then in that situation, the individual's details will all be transferred across as well, so we won't
so
need
it's
to.
less stress for the client as well.
They don't need to go elsewhere.
Yeah, and another thing is the fact that we are we're kind of expanding as well now.
Yeah.
So we're based on London Road. That's our main head office, and then we've got the one on Uppingham Road. We've got the firm in Birmingham and now Aldershot as well.
Yeah.
So we're kind of expanding. So we have had where there's clients in Birmingham who are getting in touch with the firm in Birmingham, and then I think we all speak with one another across the different cities as well. So all information, we're kind of all just speaking about it, and clients do get the opportunity to kind of explore where they want to have their transaction dealt with. But overall, I think we're doing quite well, and everything's quite good. Clients are amazing as well, and going back to property law, I'd say that working in Bond Adams has been great. What about you, Nasser?
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed working in the property department, dealing with different transactions such as freehold, leasehold, commercial and residential property as well, and also dealing with a few litigation files as well.
Yeah.
Found it very interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop us a call or email in, and we shall be more than happy to get back to you. And that's it from us today.
Yep, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.